I was interviewing a guy one time and he started talking about the black Israelites and we're the real Jews. And I was like, and it wasn't on camera, but I was like, it was so far out to me that I was like, we'll never kind of understand common terms on that.
In the age of information, ignorance is a choice. In this video, we're going to look at 5 maps and supporting texts that will show that the exiles of the kingdoms of Yehuda and Yasharal were living throughout the continent of Africa, but primarily in the regions that were targeted by the slave trade. Not all, but about 65% of us who identify as African American or who have been labeled African American, Black, or Negro descend from the paternal line of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. We have been accused of apophenia and mocked by those who have chosen to be enemies to us. If they want to reject the truth that we share without investigating our claims and the sources that we have provided, then it is obvious that they have chosen a different path. Don't waste your time and energy on the scoffers and trolls. Allow them to follow the path that they have chosen to its end. Anyone truly searching for the truth can find it. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 10. From beyond the rivers of Cush, my worshippers, the daughter of my dispersed ones, shall bring my offering. Alright, type into your search bar, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Click select. Select libraries. Select search and find. Select digital collections. Type into the search bar, Martin Beam. Select this image, Martin Beam's Erdeful 1492. Select the second image here. Expand your screen. Okay, we're just going to go over some geographic features before we zoom in on the map. Up here in the north, you have Europe. Right here is Turkey. You have Arabia right here. Africa. The Mediterranean Sea. The Black Sea, the Caspian Sea, the Persian Gulf, the Indian Ocean, the Red Sea, the Ethiopian Ocean or the Atlantic, the Tropic of Cancer, the equator, the Tropic of Capricorn. These blue badges here are signs of the zodiac. We zoom in, we'll see that we have Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. Here we have Egypt, and we can see the Nile coming down through Nubia, all the way past the equator to this lake here. This lake over here on this side, I believe, is Lake Victoria. And then it all the way down into this mountain range, which is this is an important feature. We have Lunae Montes, or the Mountains of the Moon. And then we have this river right here running through the Congo region. So if we focus on this badge of Scorpio and we zoom in here, we see that we have Praia de Judeu, which is Portuguese for shoreline or beach of the Jews. If we scroll down here to the Portuguese flag and we just look north, we have Golfo de Judeu, which is Portuguese for Gulf of the Jews. Praia de Judeu, Golfo de Judeu. Type into your search bar Google Translate. Click here. Select Portuguese language to English. And we're going to type in Praia de Judeu. Praia de Judeu, Jewish beach.
O-R-A-I-A-D-J-U-D-E-O, Jewish beach.
We'll type in Golfo de Judeu.
Golfo de J-U-D-E-O, Jewish Gulf.
Okay, now we're going to go back to the map. Now we can see that this region from the equator down to the Tropic of Capricorn is known as the Luongo Coast. Luongo Coast. And along that coast we have Praia de Judeu and Golfo de Judeu. Martin Beam's Erdapfel, Earth Apple, or Potato Globe 1492 is the world's oldest surviving terrestrial globe. And on it, on the Luongo Coast, we have the Beach of the Jews and the Gulf of the Jews. Alright, type into your search bar Internet Archive. Click here and click down here. Alright, go to the search bar. Now type in Researches into the Physical History of Mankind, Volume 2. All right, select the first image. All right, from here we're going to go to image 330. All right, we're going to enlarge the image. And we're going to read this paragraph right here. A remarkable fact in the history of Longo is that the country contains, according to a statement which was fully credited by Oldendorp, himself a writer of most correct judgment and of unimpeachable veracity, many Jews settled in the country who retain their religious rights and the distinct habits which keep them isolated from other nations. Though thus separate from the African population, they are black and resemble the other Negroes in every respect as to physical characters. Alright, you're going to go to Internet Archive again. Type into the search, the Jews of Spain and Portugal and the Inquisition. Select this image here. I was here earlier, so it just took us directly to the page. It's image 68 of 148 and page 57 of the actual book. So what we'll do is we'll zoom in. And we're going to read this paragraph right here. Unfortunately, at the time of the expulsion, the plague was raging in Castile, and the fugitives brought with them the disease, propagating it wherever they went, and not unnaturally causing their advent to be viewed with loathing and horror. This circumstance induced King John to hasten their departure from Portugal, for which purpose ships were duly provided according to the agreement. But such was the temper of the captains and sailors that they subjected the Jews to the hardest possible conditions. They plundered them of their goods and valuables, even to their very clothes, and landed them naked and bare of everything on barren points of the African coast, leaving them to die of starvation or to be sold into slavery to the Moors. Nor was this all. The king wrested from their parents all children between the ages of 3 and 10 of those Jewish immigrants who from poverty or otherwise had omitted to pay the capitation tax on entering, or who were forced to remain in Portugal, and had them transported to the newly discovered islands of St. Thomas, which then swarmed with alligators and other beasts of prey, to be brought up as Christians. Type in Harvard University. Select search. Type in library. Select collections. Search digital collections. Type in Livio Sanuto 1588. Select search. Select the first image. Expand the screen. Alright, we're going to go over the geographic features before we zoom in. So you can clearly see the continent of Africa right here, Arabia, Western Asia or Northeast Africa. We have the Tropic of Cancer, the Equator, and the Tropic of Capricorn. Here we have Egypt. We have the Nile running down through Nubia, all the way down past the equator. And then we have these two lakes, and like I said before, I think this is Lake Victoria. And then this mountain range here, Lune Montes, Mountains of the Moon, or the Rwenzori Mountains in Uganda. We have this river going through the Congo region. Over here we have St. Thomas. Remember before on the other map we know that Jews from Spain and Portugal were exiled here, Portuguese Jews. And this is the Luango coast. Now we want to focus in at this region here. Judeo-Romterra. This is the land of the Hebrews, or the land of the Jews. In this mountainous region between Abyssinia over here and the Congo region. Now they have it just north of the equator, about 5 degrees. Alright, type in Google Translate. Select Latin to English. And we're going to type in Judeo-Romterra. Remember, those V's are interchangeable for U's, so we're going to type in the U's here. Judeo-Rumterra, the land of the Jews.
Iudeo-Rum terra.
The land of the Jews.
All right. Type into the search bar The History and the Description of Africa by Leo Africanus, Volume 3. Alright, select this archive. I was here earlier, so it took me directly to the page. It's image 320 of 441, and it's page 1004. Let's go ahead and expand this, and we'll enlarge the image. And we're going to read from here to about here. Of the Jews. The Jews who have been dispersed by God throughout the whole world to confirm us in the holy faith entered into Ethiopia in the Queen of Saba's days, in company of a son that Solomon had by her, to the number, as the Abyssinians affirm, of 12,000, and there multiplied their generation exceedingly, in that they not only filled Abbasia, but spread themselves likewise all over the neighboring provinces, so that at this day also the Abyssinians affirm that upon the Nilus towards the west there inhabit a most populous nation of the Jewish stock, under a mighty king. And some of our modern cosmographers set down a province in those quarters, which they call the land of the Hebrews, placed as it were under the equinoctial in a certain unknown mountains between the confines of Abbasia and Congo, and likewise on the north part of the kingdom of Guame, and the southerly quarter of the kingdom of Gorham. There are certain mountains peopled with Jews, who there maintain themselves free and absolute, through the inaccessible situations of the same. For in truth by this means the inhabitants of the mountains speak generally, are the most ancient and freest people, in that the strong situation of their native soil secure them from the incursions of foreign nations and the violence of their neighbors. Okay, we're going to go back to Harvard Library, the landing page. Select collections, search digital collections, and we're going to type in Emanuel Bolton. Alright, we'll click here on this map. As you can see, it's another map of Africa, and we're going to look at two regions. One here in West Africa, and then one location over here in East Africa near Abyssinia. So we're going to enlarge the map here, and we're going to zoom in. You can see the Niger right here, the Niger River, Timbuktu, and over here where we have Lamlem, we're going to zoom in, and you can see, according to Idrisis, the land hereabout was peopled by Jews. This is Lamlem, West Africa. Now we're going to go over here by Abyssinia, and we're going to zoom in. Shankala, wandering tribes, Phalashim, Jews exiled, right next to Abyssinia. As you can see, Lamlem is over here as being identified as a place where Jews were living. And over here in East Africa, Shankala is also another place. Alright, type into your search bar Forgotten Books. Click here. And we'll go to menu. And we're going to type in this author's name, George Sell. Alright, we're going to scroll down, and what we're looking for is the modern part of a universal history from the earliest accounts of time, volume 14. Here we go, right here, volume 14. You don't have to buy anything, just click read now. They have pages available to read. And we'll click continue as a guest. Alright, we're going to scroll down and find page 22. As you can see, some pages are blocked, but the page that we need to read is right here. So we're going to read this, a general description of Africa. We're going to start here and read onwards. I'm going to expand the screen. A general description of Africa. On the other hand, we find here such ancient relics of Judaism, not only in the large empire of Abbasan or Abyssinia, whither the famed Queen of Sheba is said to have introduced that religion after her return from her grand visit to King Solomon, but in many other parts of Africa, though perhaps formerly subject to that crown, but since dismembered from it, and sunk in other respects into the grossest idolatry, as seems to confirm that report, found on an ancient Abyssinian record, of which we shall speak in its proper place, which makes express mention of it. Besides these, which are still in a great measure retained by the Abyssinian Church, though converted, as is also affirmed in the above-mentioned record, to Christianity, so early as the eunuch or high treasurer of Queen Candace planted it in that empire, there have been great numbers of Jews settled in that empire, some of whom compose a kind of republic independent from those monarchs and observe all the rites of the Mosaic law. Among those vast herds of them which are dispersed throughout this great continent, these have been since dislodged from their high and almost inaccessible mountains, for their frequent ill offices to those princes, and siding with their revolted subjects, and have been brought into due subjugation and laid under tribute to them, since which time they have lived dispersed into several provinces of that empire, and have made but an inconsiderable figure in it. There are some who call themselves originary Jews of the posterity of Abraham, who pretended to have formerly come in colonies and to have settled themselves in Egypt, Abyssinia, and along the Niger, or Niger. And these last are more numerous and considerable than the two former. But those who came and are still in the greatest number are such as refuge themselves in these parts, either after the destruction of Jerusalem and the dispersion of the Jewish nation by Titus Vespasian, mentioned in a former chapter, or who have fled from other persecutions under the Romans, Persians, Saracens, and since under the Christians, as out of Italy around 1342, Spain and Portugal around 1462, and out of the Low Countries around 1350, France 1403, and England 1422. All these go differently habited, as well as divided among themselves. Okay, now we're going to go to the Library of Congress. And I'll have you type in Negro Land. We'll scroll down and we'll click on the map. We'll enlarge it. Now we can see that we're in West Africa. Here we have Negro Land. We're going to zoom in. And what you'll see is Kingdom of Judah. And then it gives its other name, Ouida. This is in the domain or the under the control of Dahomey. We have Kingdom of Judah or Ouida. Negro Land. Alright. Type into the search bar The Earth and Its Inhabitants, Volume 3, West Africa. Scroll down and select the archive. Now I was here earlier, so it took me directly to the page. So it's image 330 of 646, and it's page 267. I'm going to enlarge the screen, and I'm going to zoom in. Yes, 267, page 267. All right. Dahomey. East of the Great Popo begins the Dahomey territory, guarded by the important town of Glewe, known to Europeans by the various names of Fida, Hirda, Wida, Ouida. The old writers called it Judah, and its inhabitants were said to be Jews, while the neighboring river Alala, whose real name is Ephra, became the Euphrates. During the flourishing days of the slave trade, from 16 to 18,000 were annually transported from Ajuda, as the Portuguese called this place, which at the time had a population of 35,000. The tutelar deity of Ouida is the snake, and its famous fetish temple is served by priestesses called mothers or sisters of serpents, and recruited by the abduction of young girls on feast days. Okay, we're going to go back. We're going to type in Yehudi, spelled Y-A-H-O-O-D-E-E, and hit enter. We'll scroll down, and this is what we want right here. Mission from Cape Coast Castle to Ashanti. We'll click here. We'll click here. And scroll down, and you're going to select image 12. We're going to enlarge the map. You can see that this is Western Africa, 1817. We have Bambara here, Timbuktu here, and just north of it, following the river, we have Yehudi, Yahhoodee. They use the phonetic spelling of this. It's also spelled Yahudi, Yehudi. Just south of it, we have Dahomey, and here's Wida or Wida. All right, we're going to type in Google Translate. Enter. Click on this. We'll select Hebrew to English. We're going to type in Yehudi. And what we're going to do is we're going to click this here. And we get our translation. Yehudi means Jewish.
Yehudi. Jewish.
We're going to type in Strong's Concordance. Yehudi spelled Yehudi. We'll click here. If you again, but if you notice here, is Yehhoodee, similar to the phonetic spelling on the map. Okay, we're going to go back to the Library of Congress. Alright, type into the search bar an account of Timbuktu and Hausa. Make sure you spell it the way I spelled it. Timbuktu, Timbuctoo, and Hausa, Housa. Click the search button and select the first image here. Select and click on image here and click here. We're looking for image 521, so just hit 5, get through these 50s and hit it a couple more times and then select go. Alright, so it's page 475 of the book. What we're going to do is we're going to enlarge this. And I'm going to blow this up and make sure it's right there in the center of the screen. And we'll read from here. Page 187. Yehudi, a place of great trade. This place is reported to be inhabited by one of the lost tribes of Israel, possibly an immigration from the tribe of Judah. Yehuda in African Arabic signifies Judah. Yehudi signifies Jew. It is not impossible that many of the lost tribes of Israel may be found dispersed in the interior regions of Africa. When we shall become better acquainted with that continent, it is certain that some of the nations that possessed the country eastward of Palestine when the Israelites were a favored nation have immigrated to Africa. Edith Bruder, the author of The Black Jews of Africa, identifies and shows the location of several modern Jewish groups within Africa. What you'll notice while studying the map of their locations within her book is that the modern locations overlap with the ancient locations of where the exiled Jews were reported to have settled. And these areas were directly targeted during the transatlantic slave trade.
You go to Israel, the blacks are just treated like dogs.
So do you have to treat them like that too?
The white Jews, there's white Jews or black Jews. Do you understand?
And are the black Jews less than the white Jews?
100%, 50, 100%.
And is that right?
And in America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. You know, so what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is most likely there is something there. And most likely maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today who are white Caucasian people came in a little bit later on. And most likely maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today who are white Caucasian people came in a little bit later on.